tell us about this very important question.
Am I audible? Audible? Okay. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the invitation. And so today I'm going to speak about Citizenship Amendment Bill Act. So it is yet to be an act, but somehow it has generated a lot of furor, a lot of protest, a lot of debate, heated ones, of course, in Assam, Northeast, and recently in Bengal also. So I'll do one thing, because I'm going to speak about Northeast Assam, which in general has a very frontier image in India's nation-building exercise. So most of us, like even I'm not from Northeast. I went to Northeast only in 2012 when I went to pursue my master's in TIS Guwahati. So from there, it has been a learning curve. So what I want to do is to do a mental exercise among the participants. That when I say Northeast or Assam or let's say borderland or any word in this particular subject or in this particular heading, what comes to your mind? I mean, like just let's do this reflexive activity. You know, what comes in your mind when I say Assam or borderlands or Bengal, Manipur, Tripura, like anything? Just let's begin with. We can do a mapping, and from there I would like to weave my arguments and see what kind of a discussion we have.
Tea gardens.
Excellent. What else? Tea gardens. Yeah, okay. Tribes. Music.
Good word.
Anything political? Something controversy? And don't try to be politically correct.
Like infiltration.
Infiltration, that's what I was looking for. You were saying?
Arunachal Pradesh.
Anything specific about Arunachal Pradesh? China. Yeah, so it's like 98% of Northeast is bordered by other countries, Bangladesh, Nepal, China, and it's only 2% is bordering with India through that Siliguri chicken neck, right? Yeah, so.
Afspa and rape.
Afspa and? Rape.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, it's U, not A. Okay, last round. Yeah. I rectified it.
No, that is Afspa.
Oh, Ulfa and Afspa. Sorry. That's how confusing it could be.
Internal movements for the nationalistic movements that happened in the north. So
You mean the sub-nationalistic movements like Assam agitation and all?
most of them
Okay. Sub-nationalism would do? Yeah? Anything else which you want to be there on the boat?
For quite some parts, when you think of traditionally Indian civilization, we don't really think of Manipur, Nagaland and these things.
Yeah.
It has kind of been part of India very recently.
Yes, only in 1947.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you think of that as a frontier area where you...
It's a fact.
Huh?
It's a fact.
Of course. It's a fact.
Yeah, this came to my mind.
Yeah, so it's very important. Frontier. What do we mean by frontier? Let's begin from frontier. Anything else about Northeast which you think should be...
They're not clubbed into one as Northeast. We don't think of them as separate states.
Northeast. Yeah, everything.
even northeast with respect to what?
Respect to what?
I mean, what is it north of and east?
Generally, like the historical argument is that since Calcutta was here, so from regards to Calcutta, it is northeast, like not from Delhi. From Delhi, it's like straight east. So since this was the capital of British India, so from that regards, it is kind of associated as northeast, and it has remained so. So that's one explanation for that. But let's begin from here. Frontier. What do we mean by frontier? And what is the difference with borders? You know? And since Northeast is an entire borderland, I think we can begin the whole discussion from this whole frontier thing. And since this was very anticipated, tea, you know, that most of the tea that we consume in our daily life comes from Assam or Bengal. So tea was one of the primary reasons why the British chose to occupy this area, you know, and therefore they created a lot of frontiers in different part of the region, because the hill tribes, in their words again, they were very so-called uncontrollable, savage, headhunters, the Naga headhunters. So they kept some of the areas always unadministered. They put in the inner line permit there, which is still there in Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, Nagaland, and there are demands of inner line permit in Meghalaya as well. Right.
Inner line permit?
So inner line permit is you need, let's say you want to visit Nagaland for any particular festival. So you need to give an application that will cost you around $110, and you know they will give a permit for, let's say, 10 days. You know, so if after that you are caught, then there was supposed to be a penalty.
It's like a visa to visit a part of your own country.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And this permit is provided by?
It's provided by the government of Mizoram and the government of India. Like it's a joint kind of a thing, right? Yeah, till now I have not heard anyone being rejected unless you're a foreigner. That could be a little dicey.
So the purpose is to stop people from moving into the...
Yeah, so basically what I'll do is where's the dust? Just remember your points in case I choose to ignore anything, because without drawing the map, it is very difficult to explain this. Yeah, so basically the hill areas, no? I mean, like, let's say this is the Arunachal Hills. This is the Nagaland Hills, and this is the Mizoram Hills, and this is the Brahmaputra Valley, you know, and this is the Barak Valley, and let's say this is, broadly speaking, Bangladesh. So these areas, like, were always managed by the local tribal heads, and therefore British preferred to, you know, keep them outside their domination, you know, so that is the whole beginning of the inner line permit, and even now it is still there, right?
And when you say frontier, you mean areas which have this inner line permit? Is that so what is the distinction between frontier, border, and say, inner line?
So
permit?
today we have well-established borders. Today that term is kind of a nostalgic term in social science.
Which term?
Frontier, yeah. I mean, like today we do have, like, this is Myanmar, this is Bangladesh, but the way people navigate these borders by crossing them legally, illegally, like flows which are licit and illicit, the character of the frontier is still retained in large parts of Northeast today, because only there is this so-called 22-kilometer chicken neck, and here is Siliguri, right? So this is the only connection to the region. So most of the people have had historical links with, let's say, Myanmar's. You know, in Nagaland, if you go, so there is this house of a particular Gaon Buddha, I mean the village headman, whose bedroom is in Myanmar or kitchen is in India. You know, so these are very common instances in Northeast. So therefore, the whole idea of binding the people to its territory have always faced a revolting kind of a reaction in Northeast, right? So, but how did people begin moving, like among this whole borderland, whether it's Bengal, Myanmar, and Bangladesh? Largely, it was facilitated by the British period. People have always moved around. Like people came from southern China. The Ahoms, they established the Ahom kingdom. And largest, like one of the most longest ruling kingdom of India's history, 600 years, from 1226 to 1826, something like that. You know, they came from southern China. The Bodos probably came from Mongolia. There are different kind of variations from that. The Khasis came from different places. But the latest one, I mean, like these are historical. The latest one, which actually creates a lot of controversy, is the ones which happened during the British time period. So what did they do? I mean, that's why 1826, some reference. So like, yeah. So pardon? Yeah.
There's migration of these, the Vaishnavites.
Yeah, that is the Shankardev and all. During the Chaitanya time period, yeah. Yeah. So that happened around the 1400s. Like, sorry, I'm like the contemporary of Chaitanya would be, yeah, around that time, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, but that's another scholarship which I'm not the right person to speak about, but we can talk about this later. But yeah, of course, the so-called Sanskritization of the tribes, bringing them into the Hindu fold, that was largely done by Shankardev and Madhavdev. So these were the two Vaishnavites. So the biggest river island of the world is in Majuli in Assam, right? So there you have the Shatros, where these, these Vaishnavite practices and methods have been propagated. So yeah. So they brought different tribes under the Hindu fold. So for instance, the Chief Minister of Assam, Sarbananda Sonowal, so he belongs to a particular tribe called Sonowal Kachari. But so earlier this was an umbrella term, the Kachari, under which the Bodos, the Karbis, the Masas, the Garos, they would all fall. But over time, they got segregated. Their kingdom got attacked by the Ahom kingdom. And the Sonowal Kacharis now don't even speak their own language. They have completely been, under the Vaishnavite fold. So that is one example, like, that's an entire different debate, but like whole process of Sanskritization has happened in Northeast in that way, in the 1400s till, let's say, 1800s. Yeah?
During the Ahom period?
Yeah. So the Ahom, like, so they were like tribal people. So like tribal in the sense, the practices, let's say you take birth and the first thing you drink is the local liquor made out of rice. Like we would drink honey and stuff like that. So that was the whole practice of the Ahoms, or any other, like you take any community across the Southeast Asia, that has been their long-standing practice. But once they came in close touch with Hinduism, they started abhorring these kind of practices, like reduce their drinking, or like this diet also underwent a change. So how from tribe to a Hinduized society, how they wanted to be under the so-called Hindu narrative, that is something interesting. Like that's another piece of history, you can look it up, right? And then in the 1800s, the Christian missionaries started going up to the hills. So the funny thing is what they would say, my friends in Shillong, that the priests, the Brahmins or the mullahs, they couldn't climb the hill. The missionaries did, and therefore you look the entire hill areas, Nagaland, Arunachal, Mizoram, the hills of Manipur, that's like 90% Christianity. And you would think that how this happens, because the entire Brahmaputra Valley is like so-called Hindu, Muslim, even the Barak Valley, but why are the hills like this? So just an anecdote, but interesting to think about it.
What was the official language during Ahom Kingdom? Because you say they came from China.
Yeah. So they had their own language. They still have their own language, Ahom, but that is spoken by very few people. It has become like the Sanskrit of the so-called Assamese people. So they would. So that language is still spoken in Thailand, parts of Thailand. They still that's the language is called Thai Ahom. But like what happened, since they had to, so in the Ahom had only 8,000 cavalry, 8,000 men, no women in the army. So what happened when they began establishing let's say a kingdom in the northern banks of Brahmaputra with Gorgaon as their capital, they began intermarrying. They married the Kamtapuris, some married the Nagas, some married the Mizos, some married the local different tribes. So it became a very melange of different bloods, different race. And as a result, they propagated the language that we today call Assamese. This is largely the official version. It's not that the Assamese language was not there, but they, under their patronship, the whole Ahomia identity or the Assamese language got constructed. As a result, they slowly started forgetting Thai Ahom.
I'm just curious that Assamese is an Indo-European language. This would not be.
No.
So it's just that they modified the language a little, like Persian words in Bengali or Hindi.
See, basically the thing is that, again, this is not exactly my domain, but I'll try to respond to that as much as I can. Since they had to rule a territory, let's say Britishers came to Calcutta first and they also picked up Bengali, something like that. So they came to Assam Valley and they started, propagating the Assamese language. And that became accepted as the lingua franca. Even in Assam today, you go, it's the lingua franca. So that's, yeah. Anyways, where were we?
You were pointing out in
Frontier
1826.
and migration.
Yeah, so this is okay. A little digression is welcome. Yeah, but let's see. So the Ahoms came and, began their frontier. But yeah, the migration of the frontier. So it began basically in 1826 when the Treaty of Yandabo happened. What was the Treaty of Yandabo? So towards the end of the Ahom kingdom, it became very weak. There was like constant raids from the Burmese army, the Mons and the Khmers, right? So there was this. Pardon?
When was the end of this kingdom?
1826. Yeah, so how it ended, so just a very brief description. So what happened, the Ahom king of that time, probably Purandar Shingo, he sent an emissary to Calcutta, to the British Empire, that, save us. So the Britishers sent an army there and they repelled the Burmese, and the Treaty of Yandabo happened in 1826. So this is a landmark kind of a year in the total history of today's Northeast. And as a result, the British entered the region. And the first thing they kind of saw is that this is a huge land, a lot of forest tracts. And so I think you can shift your concentration here. So some of the resources that they exploited was tea, timber, oil, wasteland, and the grazers. So the tea, they understood that this was a very fertile land for growing tea. And there was a tribe in this part of the foothills of the Arunachal Hills. It was called Singpos. So they were already consuming, they didn't call it tea, but there was this so-called wild herb, the wild tea, that they would just boil in water and consume as a, regular liquor. So the British had seen that, and they saw that China was already under British hold back then. So they kind of calculated the geography and began with tea. Timber was abundant, elephants were abundant, so therefore the British found a very good reason for establishing their colonial infrastructure there. And with the Britishers came the Bengalis. Shillong was the capital. The Bengalis largely came from Calcutta and Sylhet. And as a result, what happened, Bengalis, being very proud of their culture and so-called language, started looking down upon the other. This is take it in an anecdotal sense, but this is the so-called origin of Assamese resentment against the Bengali language or the Bengali hegemony at that time. So the Bengali Babus in bureaucracy leading to Assamese resentment. So that was the first migration which was under the under the British Empire. Then came this one, grow more food. So from 1826 to 1874, Assam, largely what we call as Assam today, was under the Bengal presidency, right? And as a result, the Bengalis in the bureaucracy, they just made this point to their British bosses that, Assamese is just a dialect of Bengali. As a result, till 1874, all the schools in Assam, they had to study in Bengali medium. So the Assamese realized much later, and this has always been construed as as a Bengali hegemony which they tried to create in Assam. So there is the beginning of let's try to observe how did it happen, the churning of the sentiments against the outsider. And this was a very cultural linguistic matter, not related to land and resource as such, which we will see that happened in the later time period. So in 1874, they separated Assam from Bengal, right? So Bengal remained Bengal and Assam remained a separate province. Yeah.
When you say Assam,
Yeah.
do you mean to say most other non-Assam states in the present also? Or were there certain areas that were not part of the Assam at that time?
Yeah, it doesn't include today's entire Northeast, but let's say the Brahmaputra Valley, the Surma Valley, and the hills of Meghalaya, because Shillong was the capital. First, it was Cherrapunji for a few days, but since it was rains exceedingly in Cherrapunji, then they shifted it to Shillong.
Present
So-
day say Assam, Meghalaya, and
Yeah, present day Assam, Meghalaya, yeah.
okay.
Roughly, but I'll try to get back to you on that. I have to ask my historian friends, right? So, from 1874 till 1905, things were continuing as they were. What happened in 1905, very significant if you are from Bengal? The Bongo Bongo Andolan. right? So Lord Curzon decided to split Bengal, like into like one as the West Bengal, one as the East Bengal. But what happened that they also clubbed Assam with this East Bengal. As a result, the capital from Shillong got shifted to Dhaka. And when these two became like one common entity, Assam and East Bengal, they began this Grow More Food program. You know, because the lands in Bengal, particularly the districts of Moyanmon Shingo, they were already flooded with like, the landlessness was one of the highest like in like Bengal's entire history. And they saw that Assam and this entire tracts had a lot of wastelands. Now again, the wasteland is a very very contested term. I will try to come to that. What is wasteland? So most of the communities in Northeast, they had this whole practice of shifting cultivation. So they would, I think like most of you are aware what is shifting cultivation. So you will clear the forest, let's say in Indiranagar, cultivate it, and then let's say go to Matikere in the next year. You will let Indiranagar to regain its fertility for 3-4 years. From Matikere, you will come to, let's say, Yalahanka again for 3-4 years. Matikere will replenish itself, and again you go back to Indiranagar to cultivate. So there was a cycle of this different tribes in different areas on the basis of which this shifting cultivation was continued. And as a result, it was very difficult to form a state in these northeastern regions because shifting cultivation is a very subsistence-prone agriculture. You just cultivate what you need. Unlike the valley-based agriculture where you have a surplus, which allows you to form a state, which could be the Mughals or the Mauryas or the Guptas. So try to, like this will, this is a very important understanding which scholars like William Van Schendel or what was the other person? Like the proponents of Zomia, like James Ferguson and all, put forward very upfront. So this particular method was there. So as a result, the point is that there were a lot of land which looked as fallow land or as wasteland in the British dictionary. So they said that, okay, we could gain revenue from this. So they did two things. One is that they would encourage the East Bengali peasants to come and settle here, begin their agriculture, and cultivate what? Cultivate jute, because Calcutta was prospering because of the jute industry. And also, when the British had to quell so many rebellions in Northeast as well, let's say the Jaintiyas rebelled, the Cookies rebelled, so they needed an army. Where did they get those members? Because the so-called plain members like the Bengalis, Marathas, or the other people are not very adept in fighting on the hills. Where did they get those members from? It was the Nepalis. It was the Nepalis who came from, because they already had the Anglo-Gorkha war before that. And the Britishers saw how valiant the Gorkhas were. So they recruited the Gorkhas into the British army. And they, for the British people, they all, went to these frontiers and quelled the rebellions. So the Nepali people, when they were done with their army stint, they began with their most preferred profession, which is the maintaining of the cattle shed, or which they call as khuti or bathan, right? So it's basically a dairy in the individual capacity. So they would also settle on this so-called wasteland, and they would begin their, khutis and bathans. And therefore, when the East Bengali peasants started coming from up, there was a initial conflict between the Nepalis and the East Bengali peasants, right? And when I say East Bengali peasants, I'm largely talking about the Bengali Muslims. Again, religions started entering Northeast at this particular time, the religious diversity. I think I'm talking about the post-1905, yeah. Okay, so that has continued unabated. Yeah, because once a community finds that, okay, there are a lot of lands there. So even there are a lot of Bengali songs, like let's say Chol Mimi Assam Jabo, which was pointing towards that, Assam is a place of prosperity, you have land there, you have enough food there. So a lot of popular culture and folklore also started coming up, started developing in that particular time. So in a way, it has remained in this imagination. And also another biggest migration is the tea gardens. All the laborers from Chota Nagpur Plateau, they were absolutely uprooted from that area, and large number of them. And they're a dominant factor in large tracts of Upper Assam today, even electorally. Right, so that is also another thing which I was focusing on. So three. Chota Nagpur Plateau, or today's Chhattisgarh, today's the entire Adivasi belt, the Santal belt, Oraos. So from the entire stretch from, let's say, Siliguri, you go up till, let's say, Dibrugarh. The entire stretch is filled with, one layer is Nepali, the next layer is the T tribes and the Adivasis, right? So basically you have the three set of migration during the British time period. The East Bengali Muslim peasants, the Nepalis, and then the T tribes, and preceded by the Bengali bureaucracy Babus from Calcutta and Sylhet. Are we together here? Like any part which you get confused?
The East Bengali migration, it stopped after this 1911 when Bangladesh was,
No. That didn't happen. That's because land was surplus, and also the Assamese landholding community welcomed them initially. Because let's say I have an extra land which is just fallow, you come here, you cultivate, you give me 50% of it, of course I will welcome you, right? So that continued for quite some time, but later when their numbers started increasing and the competition for land and resources escalated, then they became a victim, or then they started being construed as the other. Oh, those are the Bengalis, So we'll come to that. So, any other doubts? Any other clarification?
There are two kinds of Bengalis in Assam. One is the sort of
Yes.
people who went there to do administrative work with the British. There's others which I'm guessing were peasants who came who Muslims but still Bengali speaking, and they went to Assam to cultivate.
Not only Muslims, but large number of scheduled caste population as well. Remember some days, like few months back, I think this was in January, 5 Bengalis were killed in Dhola Sadia. I don't know how much it came outside here.
That was near my home.
So you're okay. So all those 5 people were like scheduled caste Bengalis. So again, this segregation among the Bengalis is something I'm also trying to grapple with, right? Because they are much more tied to the land and most likely to stay in Assam. The Bhadralok so-called people who are associated with education and all, they have already bought plots of land either in Siliguri or in Calcutta or maybe as far as Bangalore. So that's another question, the Bengali question in Assam. But anyways, so we were here in 1911 when both the Bengals were again conjoined and Assam once again was a province by itself. But what happened in this particular time period is the Assamese people realized the neighborhoods have been filled by so-called quote-unquote others. What do you mean by others? It's not necessarily ethnically, religiously, or linguistically. It could be either one of them or all of them combined together. Sometime, let's say, in the 1931 to anyways, I don't think that it's very visible, but in the census from 1931 to... Is it? Okay. Okay, yeah, it's already here, I've put it here. So this census of 1931 to 1951, why I put this? Because large number of Bengali Muslims in Assam, they started registering Assamese as their mother tongue. Because at that time, the insecurity of the Assamese people was, and since at that time, Assam also included the district of Sylhet in themselves. Right, and Sylhet has a huge Bengali population, so the balance was around 40% and 60% in the so-called Assam. And Shillong was the capital where conservative estimate would state that 40% Bengali, 20% Assamese. In those days, I'm talking about, right? So there was always this feeling of resentment that these Bengalis are not going to learn our language. They would make us Bengali at the end of the day. So this resentment galvanized in the 1930s and 20s. And but again, the Bengali Babus are not easy to touch, but the Bengali Muslims who are peasants and much down the social hierarchy, I think they started to feel the heat. And as a result, to placate some of their own concerns, they started registering Assamese as their mother tongue. So as a result, from 1931 to 1951, Assamese speaking population increased from around 35% to 51%, something like that. And just the statistics could be a little here and there. So yeah, so that happened. So like this is like conservative estimate, 40% Bengali, 20% Assamese in Shillong, let's say in the 1930s and 40s, like when it was the capital in full-fledged manner, right? So that,
It's the native tongue.
pardon?
This is based on people reporting what their first language.
Yeah, some of my Shillong friends, I think I read it somewhere, I just couldn't cite the source right now, but it won't be very, very different from that today. Today it would be probably same 2020 because Bengalis are leaving at a very fast rate, what I get to hear. So if someone does a census, it would be something like that.
What you're saying, is it like in the local term, is it what they call Gaudiya Muslims or something?
Gaudiya Murya Muslims? I'm not going to go that far because Gaudiya Muryas, they came with the Mughals and they kind of settled, right? Like if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, but I've heard like those people generally speak Assamese. Like, so I was just thinking,
Oh, I think this, what I referring about, like what I get to know from my friends is that the Bengali speaking peasants from East Bengal, not the Gaudiya Muryas. Gaudiya Muryas came much before, like with the Mughal forces and other.
the term is in use, sir.
Yeah. But again, they differentiate themselves from the Assamese Muslim and the Bengali Muslims also. And I think they make allegation that because of the Bengali Muslims, they are also clubbed as the, yeah, I know this could get a little.
So, but just to get an idea,
Yeah.
there was this fear in society about this otherness of this migrant population.
Yeah.
So, like roughly what fraction of the population was genuinely from, I mean, of course, other, from the outside is defined by from when you start measuring because everyone came from the outside.
And what is the outside?
But in the context of your discussion, like there was some population that was afraid of the other. And what fraction was the other population?
I really don't have an answer for this. Like when you say, like I'll try to deconstruct your question, but I think it's very important. When you say from outside, you said that somewhere from, let's say, beyond the boundaries of Assam.
That definition is that whatever you meant by others. Like there was people afraid of the other.
Yeah.
And like about what, was this a fear based on like genuinely being overtaken, or was it like, like now you see Europe there's migration happening and people are afraid, and a lot of it is based on media and other modern things. The number of people actually migrating, like as a fraction of the population base.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, in terms of
okay, like I wouldn't say it was small. It was quite a significant percent. Yeah, but I'm like, of course, that wouldn't justify the kind of reaction, the volatile reaction they face. But the point which I'm trying to make here is that how did it change the political landscape of Northeast, which eventually, for the first time, we had NRC in 1951, nationwide NRC, that National Register of Citizens. Like these are the people who live in this country. Then we had the Assam agitation, 1979 to 1985, which said that anyone who entered India after 24th March 1971 needs to be detected and deported back, right, wherever they came from, right? Yeah, this is because in 1971 we had the Mukti Juddha. Yeah, so you have to understand that how did migration happen? Like one, I was talking about the British governance, like they encouraged migration in these sectors. But then in 1947, when partition happened, people spilled over from West Pakistan and East Pakistan in all directions. Tripura became absolutely a non-Tripuri state, Bengal. So this is one of the biggest resentment of the so-called indigenous people, that, these people came and took over our entire landscape. But of course, they're refugee people, they had no option. I also come from a refugee family in that sense. So Assam also, the population got, fluctuated to a huge extent. The growth rate was extremely high. Then in 1965, there was a war, and the final was the 1971. So till 1971, there was a huge migration from the then East Pakistan, Bangladesh to Assam. There is no doubt about that. And it still continues probably unabated, but that largely happens in the Bengal side. I'm not very sure how much it happens on the Assam side, except maybe Karimganj and Silchar, which are the Bengali-dominated Surma Valley of Assam, right? So like Assam has two valleys, like one is the Brahmaputra Valley and another is the Surma Valley. So Brahmaputra Valley is the Assamese dominated, so-called, but like it's not entirely true to say Assamese dominated. There are numerous tribes like Bodos, Karbis, Dimasas, Gorkhas, but like whatever comes out as a narrative this far it's basically the Assamese-speaking media. So to understand what a Bodo is going through, because the Bodo also faced a lot of violence during the Assam agitation, so that absolutely splintered the Assamese society, this Assam agitation. Is my own personal reading, but I'm sure we will have a lot of disagreement. Yeah.
Say that we have Assamese domination and all.
Hmm.
I think that's not even electorally correct because, like, in my legislative assembly, we have not had till last time we did not have a Assamese MLA. Like, it was always the Uriya, the tea garden worker, someone from there.
Right.
I don't see it.
Yeah, absolutely. So how much of Assamese is Assam is a question today, right? And we do have a movement called Cholo Paltai in Assam, which is urging the Bengali Muslims to revert back to registering Bengali as their mother tongue, which would prove that the Assamese hegemony is something myth. Which, as he rightly pointed out, the election in 2000, the recently concluded election showed that the so-called protest against the Citizenship Amendment Bill Act or the harassment faced due to NRC is not an electoral issue. Because there was a Hindu consolidation, is in my opinion, both in Bengal and in Assam. As a result, in Assam, we see that the seats of BJP has increased from 7 to 9, and in Bengal, it's from 2 to 18. Right, and particularly if you look into the, so I'm shifting the guns and coming to the recent elections. Where did this growth happen? You know where? In Bengal, you take the seats like Ranaghat and Bonga, which has a very solid concentration of the Motua community, the scheduled caste Bengali community, which stands to massively gain if the Citizenship Amendment Bill is passed or the CAB is passed, because they were the last to leave Bangladesh. You know, like if you go back to the politics of 1950s and 60s, Jogendranath Mondol, who was the SC leader, kind of lobbied to be with Pakistan because he thought that the Hindu caste system is very oppressive, so I would be with the so-called idea of Pakistan. But eventually Pakistan turned out to be such a nation, it was very difficult for them to maintain their identity and stay there. So the Bhadraloks might have jumped the guns much before, around 1947 or immediately in 10 years. But the SC population has been coming in Bengal till the other days. And as a result, if you go to the part east of Calcutta towards the border, you will see how the settlements have proliferated over the last 10 to 20 years. People from Bangladesh are buying flats there. Not necessarily they are moving in, but they're just buying. And even people from Assam, the entire Bengal population of Northeast, they're all buying flats in Siliguri and in the outskirts of Calcutta today, just in case something happens, or is there a rerun of Assam Accord or something like that. So this is an insecurity which I have been observing, but yeah.
Which law is implying what?
Pardon?
So why are these guys buying that?
Out of insecurity. Let's say if you're a Hindu in Bangladesh today, let's say, so it's not a very stable condition for you.
Hindus in Bangladesh are buying that.
Yeah. And Hindus in largely speaking, the Bengali Hindus of Northeast as well, right? Because in Assam, it has been a little difficult, particularly after the NRC and this whole issue. And you see the kind of vocabulary that has been used in the movements against CAB, against the Citizenship Amendment Bill Act. Okay, so I have not explained the bill, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Actually, maybe this is a good time for me to ask a question. Just
Yeah.
you don't have to answer it now.
Yeah.
At some point in the discussion of Pakistan was on the table before partition. Assam was in the original proposal for East Pakistan.
Yes.
And I guess that's related to the fact that it was one administrative province. Bengal and Assam. So I don't know how does that affect the how did that get settled and why did Assam end up being here? How does that affect this whole discussion about?
So I think
might be some question you can answer later.
No, actually I do have something for you. Look at the Sylhet referendum. Yes, you know the Sylhet referendum, that there was a vote in Sylhet before 1947, probably sometime in 1946, where people voted that whether they wanted to be with India or Pakistan, because Sylhet was a province of Assam, but with a Bengali dominance, and within the Bengali there was a marginal majority of the Muslims. So there was two levels of frictions, between whether to stay in Assam And if not in Assam, do we stay in India or Pakistan? So there was probably the only plebiscite during our partition. We can have this discussion because that will take us into another debate. And I'm not a historian, so, but definitely we can have this. Because, actually, when I talk to my historian friends, a lot of these files of the power transfer, this official memorandums, it's only coming out now. So we are still to know that exactly what happened, what were the discussions, what does the official gazettes tell us. It's only through those things we can actually have a concrete answer, So some of them are in Assam, some of them in Calcutta, some in Delhi, some in London. So that's another politics of the archives, how the state wants you to know or read a certain history. So again, that's the broader argument. So yeah, the Citizenship Amendment Bill is simply this, that any refugee from India's neighboring countries, Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, Christian, Parsi, Jain, could enter India and get naturalized as Indian citizen. So it excludes, it excludes the Muslim community. So this is, Christians. Surprisingly, I was also very surprised, but somehow they included Christians. So this has been propagated in 2016 by the central government in New Delhi, that they are very sensitive to the so-called situation of the Hindus and so-called minorities in this neighboring countries. So if they want to settle in India, they would arrange for that. And they selectively excluded Muslims. They haven't come out why exactly, but of course you could understand that most of them would say that the country was divided on the basis of religion, so therefore, we can't take care of the Muslim community in India through such kind of mechanisms. So we can have a talk about that later. NRC.
Say that.
Pardon?
India can't say that because it chose to be secular, nothing to.
Well, it is saying. Yeah, the counter argument is that you are looking for a uniform civil code. The same law would apply for every religion. So ideologically, you cannot segregate such kind of your beneficiaries in terms of religion. I agree with you, but this is not an issue anymore. The Bengal has overwhelmingly voted for such kind of politics. Assam is okay with it.
My personal, I come from Bolpur.
Okay.
My personal experience, I think it's largely anti-Tribal.
Agree.
I mean, in my neighborhood, I say it's largely anti-Tribal.
Yes. That is true, but that doesn't discount the fact that our Honorable Prime Minister going and meeting Bina Pani Devi before the election, and there is a significant influence on those Motua-dominated seats. This came out in Anandabajar, I think. 9 out of 12 Motua-dominated assembly segments gave lead to BJP. Why? Despite the fact that the present West Bengal government was quite active in this region, in the Thakurnagar region. So I think we have to think that also. I agree with your point. I wrote something along that line only. But of course, the opposition cannot come up with a viable alternative. Okay, CAB is this, CAB is that. Then what do we do? Because of CAB, there is a huge amount of people who stands to be benefited. One cannot reject that. It's a fact.
So let me just try to
the
amendment bill, which is supposed to say that anybody who migrated before.
So 2014 is the cutoff date so far.
Oh, it's 2014.
Yeah, and there is earlier the naturalization period was 11 years. In this bill, it is 6 years. There are a lot of nitty-gritties, but since it is not passed yet, again, a lawyer would have to speak more about it. But largely the idea is underpinning is that except Muslim, any members of other religions could come and settle in India. India would
migrated already are continue to be citizens.
Yeah.
And in future, those who come will not be, even if they.
That is not being said. That is not being said. Probably, and my reading is that won't be said.
Is this specifically for refugees or is this for Christian?
No, this is supposed to be for refugees.
They don't prove that they are asylum seekers.
Yeah, asylum seekers. Yeah.
But what is our general policy for naturalization of people who come? For example, I don't even know because I guess not that many people think of India as a destination to migrate to, but in terms of citizenship, people migrate from India to places like this.
No.
Do we have a policy for like if someone comes to work here
Yeah.
or something and like stay here for is 11 years that thing?
Used to be.
If you live here for 11 years, you can apply for it.
No, there are legal ways in, yeah. So far, this is the Citizenship Act of 1955. So they are trying to amend that in 2000, the proposed bill of 2016. So of course, there are legal mechanism that, let's say, if you are from Tibet, because we have a lot of refugees from Tibet. Very interestingly, with Nepal, we have an open border policy. The 1950 Indo-Nepal Friendship Treaty, you can go to Nepal and settle and come back. Nepalis can come here without any passport. So we already have a so-called Shenzhen kind of a arrangement with Nepal.
And they
Right.
become Indian citizens.
No, doesn't mean that they can become. I mean, like, of course, there's a process in which they can become. But just because they are not Indian citizen doesn't mean that they cannot come and work. You know, I think Darjeeling, Siliguri is the biggest example. Yeah, I mean, like, there's a procedure, just like in any country. But just to speak about like whether any. It is difficult, of course. It's not easy, but I think that is difficult in any other country. So that brings us to the NRC debate. So today, if you read the Hindu newspaper, they are saying that Gorkha freedom fighters, their family members are not in the NRC. Someone who won the Sahitya Academy, a Gorkha person in Assam, is not there in the NRC. So suddenly, why did we need to update the NRC of 1951 just in Assam? Just in Assam. Okay, yeah, sorry. Nothing but a national register of citizens. Okay, just let's say this is the country. It's a piece of paper where I note everyone's name and say that, okay, in this country, these people live. You know, so suddenly. Pardon?
Citizens or people who live here?
Citizens. Like you have a ration card or some proof, some documents. So like in few days back in Parliament, if you follow a speech where this whole debate came up, that, you know, let me not speak much more about it. So why in Assam? So this was actually, I mean, like propagated by the Congress government. When Tarun Gogoi was the chief minister, I think around the time 2012 or 13, like towards the end of his tenure, he said that, okay, let's do an NRC update in Assam, because a long-standing allegation in Assam has been that there have been illegal immigrants, largely coming from Bangladesh, settling here, and that is threatening the so-called Assamese identity, and you know, it's a threat on the resources and the overall Assamese identity once again. So that's why the NRC was initiated, and after BJP came to power in the center and the state, it got expedited. And in the first draft, which I think came out sometime in 2018, we saw that around 40 lakh people were excluded, whereas around 3.29 crore people had applied. Out of that, 40 lakh people were excluded in the first draft. Now, who are these 40 lakhs? There is no official account of it because, of course, as a government, you are not supposed to give the religious composition or something like that. But from unofficial accounts, though it was like thought that it was the Bengali Muslims who would be largely affected by this, but it turned out that the Bengali Muslims are very adept in maintaining their documents. It was the Bengali Hindus who thought that just because they are in India, they wouldn't be requiring any kind of documentation. But it didn't turn out to be so, and probably the number of Bengali Hindus are more than the Bengali Muslims in this so-called 40 lakhs. And as it turns out, there are few lakh Gorkhas, there are a few lakh indigenous people as well, because you have to understand that a tribal people does not have the long-standing practice of maintaining documents against any kind of ownership. Even the concept of ownership is something which is developed in the last 70 to 80 years. It was the whole ideas of commons, right? So it really doesn't matter for the indigenous people, but for the Bengali Muslims and the Bengali Hindus, it does matter in Assam, because they have been repeatedly sent to foreign tribunals, they have been put in detention centers. Even a 102-year-old person was also detained. So it's like, I would say it's a human rights abuse which has been going on very gallantly in Assam for the last 1 or 2 years. Yeah. So it is on 31st July, the final draft is supposed to come out in this month.
So, but I have a
Yeah.
question regarding this Muslim, including the Muslim population, into the citizenship. So, people without this identity, like ID card, some sort, would be the people who would be excluded, Muslims of.
So if my name is there in the 1951 list, so I am a citizen, no problem. Yeah. Then.
So this caveat of Muslims not being there.
Not only Muslims, Hindus are also not there. You're talking about the constituency of 40 lakh, right?
I'm talking about CAB.
Okay, CAB, yeah.
So if you are there in the registry from, let's say in the 1950s.
Oh, so you are asking what is the cutoff date for Muslims? Yeah. Oh, it is this one, right? Where did I write it? 24th March 1971. Yeah, so I'll just write it here. On the basis of which the NRC is being updated. That if you enter India before this date, your name is supposed to be there, and you have to prove not only you, like your father, mother. So that's another thing which I also don't understand. It's called legacy data. So probably he had to do NRC, but he would be better able to tell you how do you get that legacy data. And probably in Bengal, the whisper is that we are going to have an NRC, and already the Muslims, yeah. And as a reaction, the Bengali Muslims have already started collecting documents in Bengal, is what I have heard before coming to Bangalore. So, anyways.
What is 2014 then I got confused?
So the CAB, Citizenship Amendment.
2014, where did I say?
It's something about 2014.
The last phase.
Citizenship Amendment Bill.
No, I probably said after the change of government in 2014, the CAB was proposed in 2016.
You said something about it before.
No. Yeah.
Okay, probably.
The Citizenship Amendment Bill would say that Hindus
Oh, okay, yeah. So anyone who has entered India, talking about the so-called intended beneficiary of CAB, entered India on a particular date in 2014. I just forgot in my mind. So for them, the cutoff is 2014 as of now. They have not said that anyone entering after this date will not be naturalized as Indian citizen. They are yet to say that, but 2014 as of now is the cutoff date.
So between 71 and 2014, other refugees except Muslims, they are fine.
Yes.
But for future, no statement is there.
Not that I know. Not that I know.
And this is 40 lakh
Yeah.
who are not, so they are, so when you say, so they are in jails, what is I don't understand.
No, they are not in jail. So let's say my name is not there. Let's say my name is not there in NRC. I applied for NRC. My name is not there. So there was a process where I could appeal again. Okay. Right. Like you could file another application, give more documents and prove that no, my father, grandfather or someone like that has been living in India, and therefore I once again appeal that my name to be included in NRC. Yeah, but the fact you said that we do have foreign tribunals in Assam. Foreign tribunals in Assam where cases of so-called alleged foreigners or infiltrators do continue. And as a result, if you are adjudged as a foreigner by this FT, foreign tribunal, you are put in the detention camp. So we had 6 detention camps in Assam till now. I think there is a sanction for around 100, if I'm not wrong. 100 more detention camp in Assam.
Oh, there's only sanction. I thought there were 100.
No, they have just sanctioned. I'm just not exactly sure about the figure, but like it's barrage of information which is coming every day. Even I am finding it difficult to.
So what is this detention camps? Each of which will be about what is the strength of each of the detention camps?
I have no clue.
Ballpark figure.
I have no clue.
900. 900.
And you know this, just a piece of information. As of now, this 6 detention camp is not actually a separate building called detention camp. It's just the existing thanas and the district jails where there is a section where you keep this so-called foreign tribunals. So recently, people have been dying in this detention camp. So that has led to a huge furor, you know. And
How do you get to the?
because you are adjudged as a foreigner by the foreigner tribunal.
Does somebody knock my door and then ask for? Is that how it's done? Or?
There are different methods. Yeah, but I'm not, again, he would be able to tell.
So one of my neighbors, they had to go to India. So I think it's like you get some kind of warrant from the police and all. You need to go somewhere, submit your documents that you've applied again or something like that.
This sort of arbitrary.
Yeah, but
How do you
they
get
generally
to-
put people into detention camp if they don't respond to like 3, 4 months. So that's how it is.
Yeah, so it, like what I figured out from people who grew up as Bengalis in the 80s and 90s. This also became a very easy mode of corruption by a section of the so-called police administration who were largely the Assamese speaking, like the caste Assamese Hindu. It became very easier for them to locate this so-called Bengalis, and so that's another how bureaucracy or governmentality in the Foucauldian sense works in real life. Yes, please.
So, like this date is before the war? Just before the Bangladesh war?
No. I was just checking it while coming. The war ended on something 16 December. So even I am wondering why.
1971?
71.
So that's what, but this is then before the war?
Yeah, this is before the war.
Right,
Oh,
right.
I thought you wanted to know why this particular date.
No. I'm
Yeah.
asking this date was before the war.
Yeah,
So that's specifically excluding people who came as refugees at that time. That's
absolutely.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the number which came? I thought that was a very big number. So if you count them and their descendants, it should be more than 40 lakhs.
No. See, I mean, you have to understand, when number of people excluded out of NRC is 40 lakh, doesn't mean that 40 lakh are illegal immigrants.
I know.
It could be very well that you're, there are so many cases, an army officer who served the...
I'm saying the other thing. I'm saying
Yeah.
that if we had excluded all those people, that number would have been way more than 40 lakhs. So somehow some of those people have got included already.
Or they all major population very
Okay, so you are saying the number of people who crossed border into Assam.
I don't know the number, that's why.
Aha,
I'm asking.
it's...
It was more than this. I mean,
Yeah, this is...
it should be much more.
Much more than
Much,
this.
much more.
It was much more because it is considered as the second largest vote after.
Right.
It's
Right.
it is
Yeah.
estimated that around 10 million East Bengali refugees entered India during the early months of war.
10 million, yeah, that's the number I have in my head.
And 1.5
Yeah.
million may have stayed back after Bangladesh became independent. So they probably went back, but 1.5 million stayed back in India.
Yeah.
So
See,
this is
I mean, the thing,
And then their descendants, this was 1971.
so the thing, yeah, please.
How much financial resources Indian government spending on this process?
They have allotted huge amount of money for this, is what I've heard. Yeah, it's a very hush-hush process, this detention camp. If you follow what is happening in the United States also along the Mexican border, something very similar is happening. And some of my friends are provoked to compare this with something which happened in Israel. So I've still not thought through it because I'm yet to read too much about that. But yeah, but this is how borderlands function. And as a researcher, I would like to just say one thing. I'm when I go into the field and interrogate, this is not my topic of inquiry, by the way. I don't do my PhDs on land and urban issue. But the thing is that even in my field also, when I was asking that when did you come and settle on the hills of Guwahati, when did you get evicted, this issue of NRC came into being towards particularly December 2018. So what do I do? What do I do as a researcher? The thing is that I just remember that I am a researcher and I am not a police. I'm not BSF. So whether someone is living in my country legally, illegally, that is something I don't have an answer, and we can't have an answer in borderland. That's what borderland scholarship tells us, that if you have a force which propels you to move from one place to another, you cannot have a fence or a river in between and you just stop it. I'm not trying to encourage illegality or something like that, but it's just the condition of South Asian borderlands in post-colonial borderlands. That's how people have always adapted, survived, or escaped violence. Yeah.
I'm just wondering what this action, who exactly this action is against.
Yeah.
That's
So,
what I don't know.
okay, so the
Financial or economic
Yeah.
benefit is irrelevant.
So the funny thing is that, so India government will tell you we are just detecting foreign nationals, regardless where they come from. If you follow the movement in Assam by the so-called All Assam Students Union, which spearheaded the Assam movement in 1979 to 1985, for which the Assam Accord was signed in 1985, they would say that Assam is swamped with Bangladeshis, but never they would have any particular statistics of from where they are deriving these kind of numbers. So in it became anti-Bangladesh kind of a tirade. the kind of vocabulary, I think I just began speaking then, the kind of vocabulary which was used in the anti-CAB bills, in my opinion, were uninhibitedly xenophobic. Like Bangladeshi go back, Hindu Bangladeshi go back. So of course, like as a Bengali, someone who has a very strong East Bengali peasant collective memory, when they're hearing this, they are not responding to it, but probably what they did, responded in the elections, is my understanding. And as a result, many people thought that, oh no, because of CAB Assam, BJP would see a dip. They didn't, rather they increased in the number of seats. Right? So the actual Bengali...
Sorry, how are
yeah.
we being benefited? I'm utterly confused.
Which one?
I thought if my forefathers have migrated from Bangladesh to Assam, and some government is talking about such register, CAB, whatever, I would not vote for them.
Yeah.
Why would BJP benefit?
No, but if I'm a Hindu,
Yeah.
I would definitely vote for BJP. I mean, like, hypothetically speaking.
Not NRC, CAB.
So you have two things. Wait. So this is why we need to understand CAB in the background of NRC. What does NRC does? NRC, regardless of religion, like could be Muslim, could be Hindu, could be Christian, could be Buddhist. You are out of the list and you constitute the 40 lakh. Okay. Then I come up with CAB. I tell that except this, everyone would be given citizenship. So if I fall in this particular category, or there is a prospect that in future I will be included in NRC, of course this entire segment would vote for one particular party which had propagated CAB. That is exactly what I'm trying to say has happened in the borderland seats of Bengal, like Bonga, Bosirhat, and all this. Though Bosirhat, like, they didn't win, but in most of the seats they were second. How did that happen? It's not just like the anti-incumbency in Bengal, but also this particular factor.
What are the chances of this bill being passed?
How can I respond to that? I think I don't see any reason not to pass. Where is the opposition? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, please.
So you mentioned that these 40 lakh people out of which the Hindu Bangladeshis would be interested in getting the CAB passed.
I don't know whether they are Hindu Bangladeshis.
Then
I'm like, how can I say that they are Bangladeshis?
I think you mean the Hindus who are in that.
You can say that Hindus who had once upon a time migrated from East Pakistan or Bangladesh. Yeah, it's very different. Yeah.
so they would be interested in getting CAB passed.
Absolutely.
But isn't that number 40 lakh too less to account for the 80? The increase in seats for BJP was 16.
Where are you talking about? Bengal or Assam?
This is Assam.
Okay, but this...
So this number is only for Assam.
Yeah. In Bengal, we didn't have NRC till now.
Oh, so we don't know the number.
Yeah, but holding on to that and once again reiterating what I said, in Bengal also we have a significant amount of people who stand to benefit from the CAB. That's what I'm trying to say, the Motuas, the scheduled caste communities. Right, so therefore we saw a swing in favor of BJP in this particular election. It wouldn't explain the entire jump from 2 to 18, but a significant factor is this is my reading of the election verdict.
It's not
Is
they
that
were
clear?
threatened before.
Yeah.
It's not that they were threatened before.
Threatened?
And BJP is saving them. I mean, it's nobody told Motua before that you go back.
No.
And it's not that the BJP is holding. It's
Yeah.
just that some other people who are in equivalent this thing, they will not be favored.
Yes. So it's two factors. One, yes, you can say that the left front or the Congress government in the center didn't say the Motuas go back.
Yeah.
But also, they didn't resolve it. They have always feared under this, like you have to understand, you could be a quasi-citizenship and you could be a full-fledged citizen, with all the benefits and all. But if you are a quasi, you will always fear this. And also when you have NRC, also understand, that's why I'm always bringing NRC. You see, if I'm a Motua in Bengal, I'm seeing that my Nomoshudros are being killed in Assam. Or their names are, I think around 5 lakh Nomoshudros names are there in this 40 lakhs. So I have a fear psychosis that, okay, if NRC happens in Bengal as BJP promised, or at least, I don't know whether in the manifesto, but they had repeatedly said that we will do NRC in Bengal. Right, so if CAB is there, I don't need to worry about NRC, whether I came in 1971 or 1990 or even in 2014. Does that explain some of the... Yeah.
You were saying that you're not sure why the Christians were included. Do you think it's
Yeah.
because a significant amount of
Tribes, yeah.
that
Could be.
could not maintain the documents still have a chance? Because I mean, nobody would question that the tribes aren't like originally of the land.
Yeah.
If they stand to, I mean, if you say you were excluded because you're Christians, that's like
Yeah. That would have led to something else. I can't anticipate.
So do you think it's because
Could be. I don't know. I didn't form the bill, but yeah, because in Mizoram, Nagaland, there is even in Imphal, people frequently like in the More, Tamu, all this belt you go, no? More is the border town in Imphal. So the other side of the border is called Tamu. So this is like a border trade hub. So there is a frequent interchange of people. Kuki people live here, Kuki people live there. There are some Manipuri Meiteis living in Myanmar for so many years. Even in Bangladesh, we have Manipuri Meitei. Yeah. Kuki Nagas are mostly Christians. Mizos, so...
Meiteis are not?
No, Meitei, so in Manipur, Imphal Valley is the Meitei-dominated, like the Vaishnavite Hinduism, which is being propagated there. So, yeah.
Back to the question, what is the government have in mind to do? Suppose they declare it all of these Muslims to be illegal, because even if you want to, which I totally am again, but suppose they decide to deport them.
Deport.
Where are they going to deport them? How do you
So that brings,
why will Bangladesh accept these people? They will be like,
so that's where geopolitics comes into play. So to begin in 1824, come to contemporary geopolitics, it's just a Pandora's box of analysis. So, I didn't get it. What?
Trump said that he'll deport every illegal immigrant to Mexico.
Yeah.
But I think it becomes important, for example, in terms of implementing schemes of various kinds, right? Like in the sense, which is going to guarantee insurance for whatever, like the whole of India. Then at least to get an estimate, Modi actually needs the right numbers, right?
Right number of what?
Right number of citizens, right? There are several schemes that are meant for several.
That could be a bureaucratic logic of implementing NRC and all. Yeah. Yes.
So I think the benefit of doing it from post
NRC.
after CAB and NRC, like let's say CAB gets passed, and let's say you know for sure these many people are not part of
Not legal citizens of India. Okay.
They can't enjoy the benefits.
Yeah, they would be put in detention camps, or coming back to his question, where will they be deported? Because that's the shortcoming of the Assam Accord and the Assam movement. I mean, like, why did they sign the accord? Like, let's say this is Assam, this is Delhi.
Would they be treated as refugees, or they won't be treated as?
They will be stateless, like the Rohingyas. So this is something you have to understand. Like, if you zoom out of South Asia, you will see that this is happening in all the frontier areas. So in
Because if you see refugees from Tibet, they enjoy a different kind of
patronage.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. Even the refugees, if you compare the West Pakistan and East Pakistan refugees, there was a differential treatment, right? And that is something which only the proponents could explain. Tibetans, I'm not an expert on the subject, but of course, they were in a certain numbers. So it was easy for them. And again, India being a secular nation, it was important for them to rehabilitate the Dalai Lama and all. So the numbers were limited, and it was a one-time movement. So, the magnitude, and again, probably the religion plays into a major factor, this NRC, CAB. So I think that was missing in the Tibet question, right? So so the Assam Accord happened between Delhi and Assam, right? And Bangladesh was here. But there was nothing between Delhi and Bangladesh, or Delhi and Dhaka, that, we have, let's say, this many 10 or X number of people, and you have to take back. And this is yet to happen, and this will never happen, likely. Because if you look into the geopolitics of South Asia, Bangladesh is probably the only one standing with us, to an extent Bhutan. Right, so it's you try to push Dhaka, you are pushing it towards China. So logically, foreign policy-wise, it's not going to happen. I don't know. So therefore, what happens is that you build a lot of detention camps here, probably in Bengal also.
What is the constitutionality of this whole thing? Like, is it not unconstitutional in some way to someone who's born here and has no proof? We have no proof that they're from anywhere else.
So
Is it the onus on the government to prove that they're deliberately crossing India or something? I mean,
so I used to think that if you are born here, regardless where your parents are, you are an Indian citizen. Like that is the thing in US or something, that someone born there is.
It's not everywhere. In Europe and most countries it's not.
Okay, but largely where we see our migrant relatives live, this is what we hear. Even I have not gone through that constitution, that you take birth in New Zealand or US, like these are the two countries I know, that you are a citizen of that. Same thing was in India, but it got amended in 2003. And please remember, this is not a, this is the India regime. Yeah, I thought that it was UPA. This got amended. Even I don't know the details, but citizenship by birth got annulled in this particular year, in that particular Citizenship Act. Right. So what you are saying that is it not unconstitutional? No, it's not.
But isn't it onus on, like, if you find a person who you cannot prove is not?
Yeah. So that provision, it was called the IMDT Act. It was illegal migrant I forgot the full form. Just check it once. You know, it was propagated by Indira Gandhi. That the thing you were saying, that let's say you say that I am a illegal migrant. So, or let's say you could be the state or you could be my neighbor. So it's onus on you to say that, give me the proof that yes, I am an illegal migrant, right? That was ensured by IMDT, which was scrapped in 2005. It was, no, the petition was done by, no, this is something which happened in the judiciary. And this petition of scrapping the IMDT was done by Sarbananda Sonowal, the current Assam Chief Minister. That's why he got this Upadhi, Jatiyo Nayok. So that's why when he was supporting CAB, he became the Jatiyo Khalnayak. So, you know, just to give a perspective.
Before this, the onus was on the government to prove that.
Yes. Yeah.
After this, the onus is on me to demonstrate.
Yeah. So if you say that I'm an illegal migrant, I immediately have to look for my papers and say that no.
All the Adivasis and all these people who don't have a tradition instead of keeping documents.
So again, your identity becomes, let's say you're some Gohai of Assam. Let's say Hiren Gohai, who is a noted intellectual. Your name is not there in the NRC, but let's say your name is Rafiqul Islam. Your name is not there in the NRC. It has very different connotations. You know, so it's not the same for everyone. You know, so
what kind of documents they are inspecting to judge that a person is?
School documents, voter ID, ration card.
Voter ID. So how the grandfathers came here, what kind of thing can you have to produce?
Grandfather's voter ID.
Yeah, whatever document.
Before 1971.
1971. That my father was like studying in this particular school, or he was working somewhere. Yeah. And why the Bengali Muslims like suffer here, you have to understand the livelihood of the Bengali Muslims. So they largely live on this Chor Chapuris of Assam. Chor Chapuri is the islands on the river which are very temporary. Like during the summer they emerge, in the monsoon they again go away. So it's a very mobile, moving community. So in 2 hours they would like totally break down their house, take the material and shift somewhere. So you can imagine the kind of hardship if you have to maintain a document, but still they like, it's surprising how they manage to do it. They will always like, keep it very close to their heart. Like if it's burning or something, they would keep it in a plastic, and because they know that the only thing that legitimizes their stay in India is the so-called legal documents. And that's why initially there was a support for NRC in Assam, even by the Bengali Muslims, that yes, okay, this is a one-stop solution and we wouldn't be considered as foreigners anymore. But it turned out not only large number of them were excluded from NRC, there was a provision that, let's say my name is there in the NRC and you think that I shouldn't be there in the NRC. So you could put an objection against me. So again, the onus falls on me to go to the office of NRC and prove that yes, I am not a foreigner, right? And this was done in the very surprising thing, not surprising. So on the last day, when the objection could be filed, so before that probably around 200, 300 objections, on the last day, over 1 lakh objections. Arbitrarily, randomly filed, particularly in the Bengali Muslim dominated districts, Borpeta is one of the most prominent districts, right? And it required that, let's say you have put an allegation against me, you also have to come to the office and say that, or put forward some evidence that, yes, I'm not a legal Indian citizen, but in no cases the person who alleged that I'm a foreigner turn up. So it was just a ploy to arbitrarily harass one particular community based on either language or religion. So that also happened in between. And so that's why this whole Assam is once again on a tinderbox that we are still trying to figure out what is going to happen.
All these people came to students' politics.
Yeah.
Regarding the education. So what happened then?
So they went on to form the party called AGP, Assam Gana Parishad. Miserable governance, just like a worst avatar of Trinamool Congress probably, minus the developmental works. Like that's what I heard. So if they don't ally with BJP, they won't even get like 2% of the votes probably today. So they have become insignificant today. Sarbananda Sonowal has saved his political career by going to the BJP. So, yeah. Yeah.
So we'll probably 6:40 there is a shuttle which people will reach.
Sure.
Maybe we take another 10 minutes to sort of give an overview the things which you have kind of have not been able to.
Okay. Let's see what do I.
Again, open for questions.
Sure. Yeah, I think I've covered most of these. Just focus on this last two things, like the territorial reorganization of Assam, which has happened ethnically. You know, Arunachal Pradesh went out in 1962 after the China's incursion into India. Then Nagaland went out, Mizoram went out, Meghalaya went out. So Bor Akhom, Bor means the big Assam, started shrinking gradually over time, right? So, and then there have been demands of the Bodoland, Kamtapur, Karbis, Dimasas, Nagalim, Kukis, Tripura. So this territory have always remained on a slippery ground in Northeast India. So that has its own kind of friction, and I think it only gets compounded with the NRC and CAB. Yeah, this is just, you can just look through. If you have any questions, I won't be going into the... But I would be sharing this article with you, like this David Ludden's interpretation of the Meghna-Brahmaputra Basin. Meghna-Brahmaputra Basin is that 1905 to 1911 province of Assam, which includes today's Assam and let's say largely Bangladesh. So it was the Meghna-Brahmaputra. So he is trying to find logic in Curzon's division. That, okay, if these geographical entities are together, there could be a reduction in Calcutta's hierarchy in that time, because everything was so Calcutta-centric. So I will share this article if you want. Please have a read. Fascinating research work. Yeah, I think... So the...
Negates national registration.
Yeah. So you are...
Condition was 71.
Yeah, so now it becomes 2014, excludes a particular religion. And the last thing in Assam is that so far we have seen politics based on ethnic identity. You know, is the question of Assamese. So does this election result in 2009 tells us no, it is no more the ethnic identity. It is the religious Hindu identity which is taking over the imagination of Assam and shows the limitation of the so-called ethnocentric politics in Northeast, which has animated the spectrum so far. You know, so that is something we have to wait and watch. See, yeah, that's all. Sure.
With the documents that you have to prove, for example, if I talk about my documents in an urban area where like, we haven't migrated so much, etc. My voter ID, I seem to have 3 different voter ID registers.
But you already have Aadhaar card?
Yeah. But then, say I didn't have Aadhaar. That's another. Say I chose not to have an Aadhaar. I seem to have 3 different voter ID registrations, and my name in Marathi and English has different spellings in each.
Yeah, that could get you in trouble, probably.
Yeah, so I mean,
this has happened in Assam.
I kind of choose which one seems like the most.
No, you have to see that in that particular case, you have to see the parity between your school certificates and your voter ID.
It doesn't match anywhere.
Oh.
So the Marathi spelling might match, but English doesn't. So when I voted, it was really random. So I just said, okay, this is the voter number that I'm going to go with. So I mean, I can imagine that if this kind of spelling mistakes happened.
Yeah, but you could probably redress it in an urban setup, given your awareness, but it's a totally different question when you go into the rural frontier, any rural frontier.
If this happens in an urban area, do these kind of like very common mistakes that happen in identification will be compounded in the...
That's why 40 lakh. That's why 40 lakh and additional 1.02 lakh day before yesterday. And we don't know what's going to happen in 31st July. And not only that, let's say you are from Bombay, right? An objection against you has come from Latur. So you have to go all the way. This has happened in Assam. Someone's house is in Goalpara, which is in Western Assam, has to go down all the way to Hailakandi. People have to sell cows, people have to sell land to sponsor these journeys with their entire family. So it's something unprecedented that is happening in Assam as we know. And it's not coming out that much, the way it's...
I file an objection here against anybody elsewhere. That person has to come here?
Yeah. Or if the government finds that my father's name and someone's father's name in somewhere else matches and something's not tallying, it's like a lottery. Even I don't know again, he might be the better person.
Like now you need a family tree, so you will have some forefather and then...
That's the legacy data.
Yeah,
that's he's referring to.
And everything has to match.
Yeah.
In order for you. So that's very unlikely that something will match.
That's why I'm like, it's very, so like, let's say if it happens in Maharashtra, if you are a so-called Marathi, so you won't be, it also depends on the officials. Let's say a Marathi official scrutinizing a Marathi name, it's like my person. But someone who is not a Marathi, let's say a Bihari, let's say, given the Shiv Sena kind of politics in Maharashtra, could easily, like so many Dalit Biharis also in Assam couldn't find their name. The piece which I had written, I was working in the one Dalit Harijan Basti in Guwahati. There also, I was trying to like filling up their forms in the NRC. And I had no idea like how to help these people. But my activist friends, they know how to deal with the legacy data. So yeah, it's very arbitrary. Yeah.
You mentioned that lots of people from Bangladesh have bought land in the
urban parts.
Areas
Yeah.
of India. So why is that? Like, is that legal and why is it coming? If they don't want immigrants to come here, why are they letting them buy land in some?
I mean, like one response could be that, see, someone living on that side of the border could easily have, like, definitely has a relative this side, right? So I could just give him the money and say that buy this flat. This is one example, but that's not something very difficult. I mean, like, if NRIs can buy flats in Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, Calcutta, why not people from Bangladesh? They are also... Yeah, but there are mechanisms, like...
No, I'm saying, is that legal? Is that encouraged by the government or is it not?
It doesn't... I mean, like, so far the government in Bengal and Assam probably hasn't thought this through. And so far, what I'm talking about, this is happening in Bengal, where real estate is the probably only way of making some money. It's our industries are dwindling. We don't have other means of generation of income or employment. So far, there has been no resistance against this. Though the thing is that, which I feel, it has been ecologically destructive, because large parts of wetlands, large parts of farm fields have gone under this real estate land bank. So of course, it has been ecologically detrimental. But these are forces, it's very difficult to contain, discipline, or forget stopping.
And also, you mentioned somewhere that in Assam, immigration has slowed down from other places, and now it's much less as compared to in Bengal.
That's, yeah, consider this as an anecdote. No, I don't have any evidence to say that, but by doing field work, traveling around is what I figure out, that let's say I'm in Bangladesh today and I need to shift the gun. I need to shift to somewhere in India. I do not see any factors which can potentially pull you to Assam. Because people of Assam, okay, we are in Bangalore. One of the biggest hub of outmigration of Assam in the entire Northeast is in Bangalore today. So it's not the Assam of 1800s where you had abundant wasteland and abundant opportunities to eke out a livelihood. It's already, people are living there. So even if I go to Assam, where will I settle down? And even if I go to Assam, I'm probably using that as a corridor to come to other places of India. Could be Calcutta, could be Delhi, could be Hyderabad. So it's not necessarily if someone is entering Bengal, stays there in Bengal. Could come to Hyderabad. Like look at the Rohingyas of Myanmar. They are here in Bangalore also. They entered Bangladesh, then they entered Bengal, or some tried to enter Assam also. But there are different considerations which goes into making these choices, where to migrate, through which corridor to migrate. So there are different reasons.
Brief anecdote which you actually wrote about it.
Which one?
The one you wrote in EPW poster.
Oh, okay, which one did I write?
This, I think, was this lady who was with your family.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so she said that I forgot which one was.
You can become Emmy.
Oh no, I think yeah. So the one lady was saying that I have taken birth here. Then how can I be evicted? And the fact that the papers so this was an eviction case. This was nothing to do with citizenship. This was an eviction notice which came in a Dalit Harijan colony in one prominent place in Guwahati. It's like high real estate price, and the railway has been always after this piece of land. So when railway sends you a notice, they send a show cause notice that show me the documents which proves that you are legitimate settlers here. So these are strategies. They don't give an eviction notice, they give you a show cause notice. So they would come up with like caste certificate, school certificate, but nothing to do with land as such, because of course they don't own the land. So they would say that, we have lived, we have taken birth here, how can we be evicted from here? Then I was thinking that, just taking a birth in India doesn't ensure your citizenship, and here they are expecting that taking a birth in a particular colony entitles them to a lifelong security and lifelong tenure in that particular settlement. So I think that was a little revealing for myself, and I got unsettled at that moment. But I couldn't explain that much, I had to keep it inside. And that's why probably I written it. Yeah.
So let's say, there's also this push towards redistribution of seats based on population, right? Like instead of the consent, remember the...
I know, this linguistic, like seats, you mean the Lok Sabha seats?
Yeah, Lok Sabha seats based on, because the present distribution is based on I think some people.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, let's say everything happens, let's say in a decade or so, if BJP has this thing that, I'm just wondering if let's say Assam becomes dominantly like a Hindu plus Christian plus other religion,
okay,
then would it actually benefit their agenda in the sense that...
Benefit?
Their agenda in the sense that if they redistribute the seat based on population, I mean, of course, we have...
I think seats in the north and west will increase. In the south it will decrease.
So is this also sort of helping them in that?
It looks like, but I'm not the spokesperson, so I cannot comment on that. It looks like so, yeah, but we have to wait and watch. So we can talk over tea or something. Yeah. So thank you.